Hi, hello, Joanna. This is your feedback for Assignment 1 Advanced Level CISELT course. I'm Liliana Simon, your assessor. So, first of all, I would say that thank you very much for sending me this assignment. It's quite interesting. The title of your assignment is Mixed Abilities and Groups Dynamics. Very interesting units we have seen in the Advanced CISELT level. I would like to give you some comments on the different sections of this lesson plan. First of all, the brief description of context, location, and time. You were supposed to write not more than 50 words, and you wrote 245 words, so pay attention to this next time. I highlighted in yellow some paragraphs related to what you have written about, for example, the learner styles, yes, visual, auditory learners, because I'm not quite sure that we as teachers know what kind of students we have, unless we've done a survey or something like that. So be careful when you talk about what kind of learners you have if you're not sure. Again, here I highlighted these parts where you talk about they're very enthusiastic in trying new classes and methodologies. I think you are enthusiastic about that, and you suppose they will enjoy doing those things. Again, I think they love English. Maybe you ask them or not. So this is, in a way, all this paragraph is irrelevant here. But when you write about these things, be sure that you really know it's like that. In the brief description of learners section, again, you have a 75-word maximum, and you wrote 315, so be careful with that again, yes? Again, you talk about the learning styles, so in one of my notes, comments, I wrote, I copy a URL from the web. It's a survey that you can do with your learners if you are interested on that. It will be interesting to do as an activity, yes, and to know more about your students. Here it was not very clear, or not necessarily written here when you talk about the seating arrangements, because you have another section here, the facilities, the size of the classroom. Maybe you could have included that in the previous section. So you shouldn't have written this here. Okay, and again you repeat here the idea of the learner styles that you were mentioning. So here this is a very important part in the development of this assignment. The idea, yes, the idea taken from the CISELT course. Again, brief description, 50 words, and you wrote 297 words. So be careful with that, yes? It was a good idea when you mentioned doing an activity called a running reading activity. Nevertheless, be careful, because during the lesson procedure it was not clear the stages for doing this activity. I will mention this later. How does the lesson fit? Again, well, here you don't have a limit of words, but I think it's too long. It's not necessary to write everything, and some ideas are repeated again. Learning outcome, the same. I think you repeated again the learning styles through games, okay? And here, where you wrote a kind of list, students will be able to learn new vocabulary, will be able to read through a process. So this is quite good, yes, to write a list of the learning outcomes. When we write about materials and references, the idea is to attach worksheets. You did that in another Word document. And you mentioned here that you use flashcards and a book. Yes, got it book, or got it. What's the name of the book? It's not very clear. So be careful when you write the name of a book. You have to write the author, the editorial, the year it was written, edited. Okay. Here, anticipated problems and proposed solutions. These two sections are quite connected. Yes. So here, what you did, you wrote a list. You could have, this is a suggestion, you could have enumerated them, right? The numbers, number 1, number 2, number 3, and then when you give the solutions to these problems, you have the answer to each one. Because I think you have 10 more or less, 10 anticipated problems, but you don't have all the solutions. So say if you don't have a solution for something, or if not, it won't be good to have this without the solution. Okay. The lesson procedure. Well, the lesson procedure was difficult at times to follow. Be careful with the interaction column. Some parts were empty. You wrote here individual work and nothing else here, and you have more steps inside the stage. There are some suggestions. When you say check the list, usually I think you were talking about calling the roll, yes? The list of the names of the students. Set the rules. I don't know, you mentioned rules many times while you were doing some kind of activity and you had to give some rules. But it's not clear. Well, you mentioned here, for example, I added this example, raise your hand. Well, I suppose these are the general rules you use in your class. So maybe you have a poster, or I don't know how you handle this, but it's not very clear. So be careful with that. The second stage, you mentioned the attachment 1. We have here, this is your page, and you wrote here the name of the flashcards. Only 3 words. Are there more? And 2 pictures. Well, this is a bit incomplete. Yeah, so try to make it clearer next time. You copy the same words here. Okay, then you have the different steps, but the interaction is missing. The next stage, it's connected to attach to, the second attachment, and here this was not clear. You wrote instructions. There are 16 students from form 4 rows of 4. What is this? Is it a game? It's not clear. Again, be careful with that, yes? You mentioned that you have to follow instructions. You give instructions and students listen to the instructions about the new activity. But what is the new activity about? Yes, it's just listening and following suggestions. What would be the skills you're using? Yes, you could have completed that here. Then you wrote check the next stage, check understanding before to start, or before starting, I suppose, before starting. Mistake. Students repeat the rules. Again, rules. What rules? The previous rules? And you wrote here to get a pre-listening activity and to get a pre-reading activity. And what is the activity again? Asking and following instructions. You continue working with this. This is not clear. Inside this section, you have the third part of your Word document. I suppose, yes, it's this part. It's the text, cooking up a storm. So, again, this is not clear. What do they have to do? They have to read. They're reading groups. You mentioned that you form groups here, but it's not clear what's the idea, yes, about this activity. Also, the title of your work, of your assignment, is called Mixed Ability and Groups Dynamics. So you haven't mentioned this, or mixed abilities is not mentioned again inside your lesson procedure. So we were here. Sorry, I got lost. We were reading the lesson procedure. Yeah. Yes, attachment 3. We were somewhere here. Okay. Again, you mentioned to develop writing, reading, and listening skills, and in fact, this was a reading activity. I missed the listening and skills or the writing. Maybe the writing could be, I suppose, the answering the questions, the next one, the next attachment, number 4. But attachment 4 is here. So I don't know what they are doing. It's not clear. Again, when you mention these roles, yes, how many describe the role? You mentioned that there is a writer role, but it's not clear again. Try to give the writer role, but then you don't mention. You say that there are 2 speakers, 1 timekeeper, and 1 monitor. So this is not clear again. When you mention looking for the main idea of the text about food, you you're going to work 15 minutes with this activity, and the students have to find the idea, the main idea, or the main ideas, I don't know, you say main idea of the text. And there are a lot of there is a lot of information, yes, the daily routines of this man and all that. So I think you should focus and help students what to find. What do you want them to find in the text? Not just look for the main idea. Okay, maybe you focus on the times, I don't know. Then the next stage you talk about represent the main idea of the text orally without reading, I suppose, without reading the notes. But where was this mentioned, reading the notes? So be careful. Choose one representative, but each member of the group has to support ideas. How do you do this? They all talk at the same time? Do you give permission? Or there is just one person talking? That's not very clear also. Here is I give all the students the text, but weren't they working with the text before this? And to get visual support of what? They were not given the text before? This is not clear again, yes? Okay, the next stage, you say give them some questions about the text. I suppose these are the questions you scanned here. These are the questions that you mentioned. Okay, so you give them some questions about a text. Learners read the questions and answer in pairs, and they develop listening skills. Why listening? Was it a listening or a reading? Again, I'm lost. And here you say count the points on the board and say the winner. They were playing a game. And this was not mentioned before. We talk about forming groups, but not about a game. Yeah, so be careful. When we work with a game, instructions must be very clear. Yes, and the instructions are not clear for me. Yes, and I am reading the plan that you wrote. So, as regards the lesson procedure, I will have to ask you to rewrite it. Yes, to improve, to expand on the parts I have mentioned or written some comments. And as regards to reflection, I like it very much. Yes, you developed a good reflection. And what I found very interesting, well, again, you talk about visual, auditory, and kinesthetic, and you had to support with examples. You did here. You supported with something here. But be careful. For example, moving. Students learn by doing something, not just by moving. So the idea is not let's move, come to the blackboard or sit down or go to the toilet, whatever. Yes. So what are they learning when doing something? Think about that. Okay, and the next part of the reflection, what didn't go well and why? You say I would have used the material in a better way. So and I mean, for example, in the part of the class a student can see the text, I could use the interactive whiteboard, I suppose. So that would be good to integrate technology in the class. A good reflection. Then also that you realize that students copied from the first group that talked, the second, the third, and the fourth group copied the words or the ideas. And you suggested using a different text or writing them before talking. Those are good ideas. Okay. And here I couldn't understand very well when you talk about the writer seat and in the listener seat and the reader seat. It's not very clear. Maybe you can expand on that. Here in the past, it goes because you're talking in the past. Then you mentioned the seating arrangements. This is very important because you are talking about group dynamics, and the seating arrangements are important. So you could have mentioned this here because group dynamics was not mentioned in the whole plan. Yes, so you could have made a reference here and connected to the CISELT course, what we have seen. And here I like this part when you say try to think as a student. So to put yourself on the student's shoes, that's good. And also I was thinking about that when I couldn't understand. If I can't understand and I am a teacher, what about the students? Yes. So please, I will ask you to read again carefully the lesson procedure. The ideas are good, yes, but all the lesson procedure, the interactions